Okay, let's dive in. We're heading back, way back, to the 6th and 5th centuries BC. Uh, Quite an era globally, actually.
Absolutely. While you've got the stirrings of classical Western thought over in the East, two giants emerge almost simultaneously: Confucius in China and Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, in India.
It's amazing, isn't it? Roughly the same time, thousands of miles apart.
hmm And both reacting to, well, similar kinds of social chaos, trying to find a path to a better life. But the paths they came up with were remarkably different.
Right. That's what we're digging into today, using the sources we have on their lives and, the ethical systems they built.
Yeah, the sources really lay out the contrast. Confucius is all about creating the complete man, the chunzu, through, let's say, moral cultivation within society.
Following the rules, improving character.
Exactly. Whereas the Buddha offers, well, total liberation, an escape route from the whole cycle of suffering by changing how you even relate to existence.
A much more radical break, man.
They fundamentally different goals, yes. So we'll look at their lives, the societies they were responding to, and really unpack those core ethical blueprints.
Okay, so let's start in China. Confucius.
Confucius. The sources say he was technically from a noble family, but they'd fallen on hard times. Born poor in the state of Lu.
And he was self-taught, driven.
Very much so, became a private teacher. And that detail you mentioned before we started about him taking students, even if they could only pay with a bundle of dried meat, that's huge.
It really tells you something, doesn't it? Merit over money or birth, which must have been pretty radical then.
Oh, absolutely. It speaks directly to his focus on character, on ability, not just status, which, becomes the bedrock of his whole philosophy.
In the context he's in, you said chaos.
Yeah, the Zhou dynasty was falling apart. It's called the Spring and Autumn period. Think warring states, crushing taxes, forced labor. Society was basically fracturing.
Okay, so his solution wasn't like new laws or revolution.
No, quite the opposite. He believed the fix was to return to the moral traditions, the rites of the past, restore order through, well, restoring virtue.
And he did get a shot at politics, right? Around age 50.
Briefly, Minister of Justice or something similar, but it didn't last.
Why not?
Well, the sources suggest the ruler wasn't truly committed to the deep moral reforms Confucius insisted on, so he resigned pretty quickly, it seems.
And then?
Then came about 13 years of wandering, offering advice to various feudal lords. But apparently they weren't very appreciative, as the text put it. They wanted power, not necessarily deep moral governance.
That's the real paradox of his life, isn't it? He pushes for these reforms, fails politically in his own lifetime.
Dies an old man, seemingly unsuccessful in that arena. He goes back to teaching around 67, 68, focusing on preserving the ancient classics.
But then, centuries later, 136 BC, Han Dynasty, his ideas become the official state ideology, the basis for the civil service exams for, 2,000 years?
Exactly. His worldly failure became this incredible lasting success. The philosophy itself had the blueprint for a stable moral order.
So let's get into that philosophy. It rests on Tao and Te.
Right. Tao, the way. Think of it as the fundamental cosmic principle, the ultimate standard, the underlying moral order of the universe that everything should align with.
Okay, the big picture standard. How does an individual connect with that? How does it become, personal ethics?
That's where K comes in. Te is virtue. It's the Tao manifesting in a person. It's that innate quality, your moral character.
Ah, so Te is like the Tao's presence within us.
Precisely. And Confucius argued that the only truly worthwhile goal in life is cultivating this Te, this moral character, to become the chunzi, the superior or complete person.
The ideal human being.
Yes. And someone with high Te would naturally govern wisely and justly. So reforming the person was the path to reforming the state.
Makes sense. And becoming this chunzi needs two things. You mentioned qi and wen.
Right. Qi is sort of the innate potential, the raw moral endowment you get from the Tao. But that's not enough. You need the nurturing, the cultivation, the education, the constant effort to refine that potential. It's a lifelong job.
A project. Okay. And that project involves specific virtues. 3 main ones.
3 key ones. The absolute cornerstone is humaneness.
Humaneness.
Like kindness. It's respect, love, goodwill towards others. The direct quote we have is simply, love your fellow men.
Simple to say, maybe harder to do. Especially with that concept of shu.
Ah, yes, shu. His version of the golden rule. Do not impose on others what you yourself do not desire. Negative formulation, notice. Don't do harm.
Okay, but there's a catch to achieving Zen, isn't there? Something about rights.
A crucial point. The sources stress that real Zen requires overcoming the self, your own self-interest, your desire for gain, and you do this by observing the lie, the rites.
Wait, hold on. Why are external rituals, the lie, so vital for internal humaneness? Can't I just be good without all the ceremony?
That's a common modern question. For Confucius, all those traditional rules, ceremonies, social etiquette, everything from how you address your father to state rituals, they aren't just empty forms.
Okay.
They actively shape your inner life. By performing them correctly and sincerely, you learn discipline, you learn respect, you restrain selfishness. The external practice cultivates the internal virtue. They're inseparable.
Got it. The outward form molds the inner feeling. Okay, virtue 2.
Wisdom, the ability to tell right from wrong.
And how do you get that?
It's a balance between learning shui, which means deep study, especially of the 5 classics.
Poetry, changes, rituals, documents the spring and autumn annals.
Right, and thinking su, reflecting on what you've learned, analyzing it, applying it. You can't just be a bookworm.
He had that great quote, didn't he? If one learns but does not think, one will be bewildered.
If, on the other hand, one thinks but does not learn, one will be in peril. You need both study and reflection. Feels pretty relevant today, actually.
Yeah, thinking without facts, or facts without thinking, both dangerous. Okay, third virtue.
Jung, courage. But not just any courage.
Moral courage.
Exactly. The strength to do what's right, even when it's hard or scary or unpopular. And that sense of right comes from heaven's decree, that ultimate moral imperative.
So it's principled courage. He said, faced with what is right, to leave it undone shows a lack of courage.
But he also warned against courage without morality. That just leads to trouble, or worse. The action has to be grounded in Zen and Qi.
Okay, so Confucius gives us this path, intense self-work within society, using tradition as the guide. Now, let's jump over to India. Same time, very different approach.
A complete pivot, really. While Confucius is trying to perfect the individual to fix society, Siddhartha Gautama is looking for a way out of the fundamental suffering of existence itself.
What was the backdrop there? What was he reacting against?
Primarily a form of Hinduism that had become, let's say, very ritualistic and complex. Getting free from samsara, the cycle of rebirth, seemed to depend heavily on elaborate rituals performed only by Brahmin priests. It was quite rigid.
So Buddhism came in as a kind of reformation.
In a way, yes. It democratized salvation, you could say. It argued liberation wasn't about priests or gods, but about your own effort, your own discipline. No supernatural shortcuts needed.
And Siddhartha himself, he wasn't poor like Confucius.
Oh, no, quite the opposite. Born a prince, warrior caste, lived in total luxury, shielded from the world's unpleasantness, married, had a son, the whole package.
Until the foresights.
Exactly. The story goes, around age 29, he ventures out and encounters for the first time an old man, a sick man, a corpse.
Realities of life he'd been protected from.
And finally, an ascetic monk, someone who seemed serene despite having nothing. These sights just shattered his worldview. He realized suffering, aging, sickness, death is universal, inescapable.
And that triggered his great renunciation.
He just walked away, left the palace, the wealth, the family, everything to find the cause of this suffering and, hopefully, the cure.
6 years of searching, including some pretty extreme self-denial.
Yeah, intense asceticism, starving himself, holding his breath. Practices common at the time, but he found they didn't lead to liberation, just weakened him.
So then the middle way.
Yeah.
The Bo tree.
Right. He decided extreme indulgence and extreme denial were both dead ends, sat under the Bodhi tree, determined not to move until he found the answer, and at age 35, he achieved enlightenment.
He became the Buddha, the awakened one.
He perceived the origin of suffering and the way to end it. He attained nirvana.
Okay, nirvana, that word gets used a lot. What does it actually mean in this context?
It literally means to blow out or to extinguish, like blowing out a candle flame.
Extinguish what?
Desire, craving, thirst. That's the fuel, according to Buddhism, that keeps the engine of samsara, rebirth, suffering, karma running endlessly. Nirvana is the cessation of that fuel, the end of the cycle. It's radical peace.
Wow. Okay, so after enlightenment, he starts teaching.
His first sermon in Benares, the turning the wheel of doctrine. And this sermon lays out the absolute core of his teaching, the Four Noble Truths.
The foundation. Let's go through them. First.
The first is simply acknowledging the reality he saw. The universal fact of pain and suffering, dukkha. It's not just physical pain, but the dissatisfaction of impermanence, the pain of loss, the stress of clinging to things. Life inherently involves suffering.
Okay, fact 1, life is suffering. Fact 2.
The origin or cause of suffering. And the cause is identified very specifically. Craving or thirst, tanha. This relentless desire for sensual pleasure, for existence, for non-existence even. It's this grasping greed that binds us to the wheel of rebirth.
So we suffer because we constantly want things or want things to be different.
Fundamentally, yes, which leads directly to the third truth. And this is where it gets really distinct from Confucius.
Okay.
The third truth is the cessation of suffering. If craving is the cause, then ending craving is the cure. And how do you end craving? By renouncing the self.
Renouncing the self. Not just selfish desires, but the self itself.
Exactly. This is huge. Buddhism argues that our perception of a permanent, unchanging, independent self or soul, what Hinduism called Atman, is actually an illusion.
Wait, so there's no permanent me?
According to this doctrine, no. What we call self is just a temporary collection of changing physical and mental components. Clinging to the idea of a permanent self is the deepest root of suffering because it's attachment to an illusion. The goal is to see through that illusion, to realize no self, an Atman, and literally die to the self.
That's profoundly different. If there's no self, who is it that suffers? Who is liberated?
That's the paradox, isn't it? Liberation is the realization that there was no permanent self to be bound in the first place. It's seeing through the illusion.
Okay, my head's spinning a bit. So if we accept truth 1, 2, and 3 suffering exists, it's caused by craving, rooted in the illusion of self, and it can cease. What's the fourth truth? How do we do it?
The fourth truth is the practical guide, the path to cessation. This is the famous Eightfold Path.
How-to manual for enlightenment.
Pretty much. And if we pause here, the contrast with Confucius is just so stark, isn't it?
Yeah. One path is about meticulously building up the ideal moral self within the social structure, using tradition.
Refining character through rites and virtues.
The other is about systematically dismantling the very idea of a self to escape the structure of existence altogether.
One polishes the mirror, the other realizes there is no mirror. It's fascinating.
Okay, so let's walk through the Eightfold Path. It's the practical application. How is it broken down?
Usually grouped into 3 sections: wisdom, ethical conduct or morality, and mental discipline or concentration.
Make sense? Start with wisdom.
Wisdom covers the first 2 steps, right view or right understanding. This means basically getting it, understanding and accepting the 4 noble truths intellectually. Seeing reality as it is, impermanent and marked by suffering.
So the philosophical foundation.
Yes. And then, right resolve or right aspiration. This is the intention, the commitment to actually follow the path, to aim for renunciation, non-harming, and goodwill, consciously moving away from selfish desires and the whole I, me, mine orientation.
Okay, understand the problem, commit to the solution. Next group, ethical conduct.
Right. How you act in the world. This includes right speech.
Watching your words.
Deeply. Avoiding lies, slander, harsh speech, idle gossip. Speaking truthfully, kindly, helpfully. It requires real mindfulness.
And right action. This sounds like basic morality.
It involves the 5 precepts, which are pretty core. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. Covered by right speech too, but emphasized here. Avoid sexual misconduct and avoid intoxicants.
Why intoxicants specifically?
Because they cloud the mind, and mindfulness is essential for the path. You need clarity, not haze.
Got it. And there's one more in this group.
Right. Livelihood. How you make a living matters.
Ah, interesting. So your job has to be ethical.
Yes. Avoid occupations that involve harming others directly or indirectly. The texts often mention things like being a butcher, a soldier, dealing in weapons or poisons. Your work should ideally support life and well-being, embodying goodwill.
That has huge implications. Okay, so wisdom, ethical conduct.
Yeah.
The last group is mental discipline.
This is the meditative core, really. It starts with a right effort.
Effort, like trying hard.
It's more specific. It means consciously striving to prevent negative thoughts from arising, overcome negative thoughts that have arisen, cultivate positive thoughts, and maintain the positive thoughts already present. It's active mind training.
Constant vigilance over your own thoughts.
Exactly. Then right concentration, or right mindfulness, sometimes translated differently but related. This is about developing awareness of the present moment, observing your body, feelings, thoughts, without judgment or attachment. Cultivating a calm, detached awareness. Seeing things as they are, moment by moment.
Getting free from distraction and fantasy.
Yes. And this leads to the final step. Right contemplation, or right meditation. Samadhi. This is deep concentration, moving through levels of meditative absorption, jhanas, quieting the mental chatter completely, allowing intuitive insight and direct knowledge to arise.
And this is what ultimately leads to
Nirvana, The final release, the extinguishing of craving, the realization of no self, it's the culmination of the entire path.
Wow, okay. Looking at both figures, Confucius and Buddha, what really strikes me is the sheer lifelong dedication involved.
Absolutely. Neither offered an easy fix. Confucius worked his whole life, saying only at age 70 could he finally follow his heart's desire without, overstepping the line of propriety. That's decades of self-cultivation.
And the Buddha, those 6 years of intense struggle before enlightenment, and then decades of teaching.
Right. Both paths demand incredible commitment, discipline, and constant self-overcoming. But again, for radically different ends.
One to perfect the self within the world, the other to transcend the self and the world.
Confucius. Moral excellence through tradition and social harmony. Buddha. Liberation from suffering through extinguishing desire and the illusion of self.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe, for you listening. Both of these systems emerged from times of real chaos and suffering. You could argue we're facing our own kinds of chaos today. Information overload, social pressures, existential anxieties.
A different kind of suffering, perhaps, but suffering nonetheless.
So the question becomes, which approach resonates more now? Which offers a more, let's say, robust framework for finding peace or meaning today? Is it the Confucian way, focusing on social roles, ethical conduct within society, building character through tradition and humaneness?
Or is it the Buddhist path, the inward turn, the focus on understanding the mind, detaching from desire, and maybe even questioning the very nature of the self to find liberation?
Confucian external shaping or Buddhist internal dissolving? Something definitely worth thinking about.